Hello, my name's Bill Slee and I'm here as a Marr Area Partnership Board member. I'm going to talk about climate change and community resilience and adaptation from a map perspective, a Marr Area Partnership perspective. And I know that Ruth in her keynote has already talked about resilience, but it is very much about recovering from shocks without undue difficulty. But it's not just about coping, it is about what we need to do to adapt as well. And that is a really important consideration to bear in mind. Some would argue we're becoming less resilient, and we at least need to contemplate that and debate it. And if that's the case, then we need more adaptation. And as Marr Area Partnership, we're not concerned only with climate-related challenges to resilience. At the moment, we've had the social shock of the pandemic. Our work has never been more important than at such time. We've got an economic shock taking place at the moment with energy costs. And we've had in the northeast here the floods of Storm Frank and the winter storms of Storm Arwen last winter. We've seen them all, and they are a real challenge to us. Today, we're going to concentrate on the climate shocks, but that's not all that we in the partnership do. We try to reach out and cover all those shocks and try to build system resilience. And I think if we take a slightly broader view of it, if you start with just me and my house, how resilient am I to these climate shocks? And then within my immediate local neighbourhood of Greystone Road in Afford, how resilient is Greystone Road community? How resilient is the Afford community? And then that's embedded at higher and higher levels into northeast Scotland. And our socio-economic systems are multi-layered, and so necessarily is resilience. And the bit that I want to focus on is the bit that deals with third sector bodies. Community councils, voluntary groups, especially village hall committees, which are so important at times like Storm Arwen, neighbourhood groups and households. And in some ways we can liken these groups to layers of an onion. And if we think first about households, households are extremely variable in resilience. They've got different levels of wealth, different levels of ability, different networks, different assets and resources, different skills, different types of house, different preparedness. And some household types are exceptionally resilient, but some are very, very lacking in resilience. And the key here is, what are their assets? What are their capabilities? What's their preparedness for these shocks? And how dependent are they on others in order to sustain themselves? We take the next, just thinking for a moment about households. I want to take you back to Storm Arwen for a moment. I've inherited an Aladdin lamp. It runs on paraffin, and so I have that asset. But if it wants to work, I need paraffin, I need a spare mantle, I need a spare wick, and I need to know where those different things are located. Equally, I need the capability to use that asset. I need to be able to use paraffin safely. I need to be able to replace a mantle. They're very, very fragile. I need to be able to mitigate fire risk, because these things can all of a sudden flare up and cause a major risk. Now, most elderly folk in the countryside, and farmers in particular, have experience with Tilly lamps, Aladdin lamps, and so on, but younger folk don't. They're much more comfortable with torch lanterns and batteries. We look at other households that are camping households. They're often very well prepared in terms of both their assets and their capabilities to withstand one of these storm-type climate shocks. Let's go to the next level and think about neighbourhoods. They, again, are very variable in their risk. If you're on a floodplain, or if you're in a prominent position, wind damage may be more. They're very, very variable in their resilience as well. Got different resources, different skills, differences in social capital, and differences in their networks. If they're gappy rather than very dense, then people are likely to fall through the network. and we need to know whether vulnerable households in the networks or not. Again, the key here is the assets, but more importantly, the networks, their capabilities, and the gaps are the key issues there. Let's move on and think about the community level, the next layer of the onion. Communities are highly variable in their vulnerability to shocks. We saw Storm Frank hammered Ballater in our area, in Marr Area Partnership. They're also variable in their resilience to shocks. Some seem to take much longer to recover, some seem to recover relatively fast. Here, social capital is really important. So too are the basic goods and service providers, and we found that in some of our smallest communities, village shops became hugely important hubs when the electricity was down. And the key here is there a hub available that can provide shelter, hot food and hot drinks and information? Are the networks adequate? Is there a resilience plan in place? And here, wealth is much less important than cohesion and skills. And we must realize that in many cases, the community is the first structured response if it's got a plan, or they are the first ad hoc responders if there's no plan. Moving on quickly, at a council scale, they are obligated to have resilience plans in place and deliverable, but they need to coordinate and work with key service providers, and the ability of the key goods and service providers, water, food, electricity, fuel, and so on, to recover their supply chains is absolutely critical. But we all know that many in that category were very slow out of the blocks during the storms that we experienced. Their key roles are coordination. They need the capacity to effect recovery of supply chains, and their response times need to be faster. So moving on, below that council level resilience planning, at community level and below, what can we reasonably expect to happen, and what can we support to happen? Community councils are sometimes very big in West Aberdeenshire, so we may need to go right down to a community level, but a resilience plan and capacity to implement it is really important. There needs to be a known location for information, a place for hot food and water, a place for warmth and shelter, a hub, and access means to functioning emergency services. In other words, we were all dependent on digital phones, which didn't work. We need some other form of communication. In terms of neighbours, we need to know about neighbours' systems, their assets, especially their heating systems, if they're electrical only. We need to know about their capabilities, and we need a common sense engagement of the willing who are able to protect the weak. We need to be able to check and network, and especially know who's been taken away by relatives. We don't want to break down doors looking for elderly people when they're not there because they've gone to stay with a relative. We need mini hubs, households that have got wood burning stoves and cookers and got their own independent supply of electricity, and they can take in neighbours and relatives for warmth. And we need to think about household responsibilities. A survival kit, where's your torch lantern, matches, camping stove, water container, transistor radio, access to a non-digital landline, and food stocks. And in the cases of things like floods, we need to think about grab bags, where there's something that's got medicines, cash, torch, first aid kit, and so on, that you can take with you if you need to escape fast. Where can MAP help? What we do, and it's our lifeblood, is about sharing good practice among community councils and community groups. We can signpost information on grants and support systems which help build resilience. We can provide training in building resilience at household, neighbourhood, and community scale. And in the case of Storm Arwen, we can generate rapid response inquiries into how well the system coped. We can get feedback, and we can provide structured feedback to councils and the statutory undertakers. But over and above that, we need to recognise that there are individual and household responsibilities. It's not just someone else's responsibility when there's a storm. And it's not just about building climate resilience, it's about building overall community resilience in the face of many threats. And we've seen those all recently. And MAP as a community-based organisation, as a charitable organisation, operates on behalf of all the community groups in West Aberdeenshire, feeding them information, supporting and building their resilience.